I'm Nyla Graham. My speech topic is the evolution of jazz music. The evolution of jazz music. Imagine a genre of music that blends improvisation, intricate rhythms, and diverse instruments. A genre that started in the streets of New Orleans, traveled through cultural revolutions, and became the foundation of modern music. That genre is jazz. Jazz has shaped not only the world of music but also social movements and cultural shifts, contributing to influencing artists and listeners today. Jazz music, born in the early 20th century, has had a profound impact on both the evolution of music and the development of modern culture. Its history is rich and complex, moving from its roots in New Orleans to the big band swing era, and then evolving into bebop and modern jazz. Let's take a closer look at the evolution of jazz music from its origins to its lasting influence today. Jazz music was born in New Orleans in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. This vibrant city, with its cultural mix of African, European, and Caribbean influences, provided the perfect backdrop for the creation of a new musical form. Early jazz musicians like Louis Armstrong, King Oliver, and Jelly Roll Morton began experimenting with brass instruments, syncopated rhythms, and improvisation. These musicians created a sound that was radically different from anything heard before, and it quickly gained popularity. What made jazz unique was its ability to combine structure with freedom. It was heavily influenced by African American traditions like blues, ragtime, and gospel music, allowing musicians to improvise and interpret the music in their own way. This freedom of expression became a key element of jazz, and it was this characteristic that helped it evolve into the powerful genre we know today. As jazz spread throughout the United States in the 1920s and the 1930s, it began to evolve into what we know now as swing music. The swing era, which flourished in the 1930s and 1940s, saw the rise of big bands and orchestras, and jazz music became mainstream. Artists like Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and Benny Goodman led these large ensembles, which featured complex arrangements and emphasized rhythm and melody. Swing music became synonymous with dance. It was fun, energetic, and perfect for ballroom dancing. It was during this time that jazz reached its broadest audience, gaining popularity through radio broadcasts and live performances in large venues. Swing music helped lift people's spirits during tough times, especially during the Great Depression and World War II. It united people through its upbeat tempo, creating a sense of joy and collective energy in an era of hardship. The swing era was also marked by the rise of the iconic jazz musicians such as Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, and Charles Christian. These artists not only shaped the sound of jazz, but also helped to define its cultural significance as a genre that appealed to both African Americans and white audiences, bringing the country closer together through shared musical appreciation. By the mid-1940s, jazz was undergoing another dramatic transformation. The swing era was still going strong, but a new style of jazz was emerging: bebop. Bebop, led by pioneers like Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, and Thelonious Monk, was a fast-paced, complex, and intellectually demanding style of jazz. Unlike swing, bebop was not designed for dancing. It was created for deep listening. Musicians like Parker and Gillespie played at breakneck speeds, using intricate chord progressions and harmonies that challenged traditional ideas of what jazz could be. Bebop was revolutionary because it shifted jazz from big band orchestras to small combos. The rhythm sections became more important, and the improvisation was more intricate and spontaneous. The shift to bebop also marked the rise of virtuous jazz musician, which is now expected to not only be a performer but also an innovator, constantly pushing the boundaries of music. Bebop's influence continued to resonate in modern jazz today. It introduced the concept of complexity and individuality into jazz, inspiring future generations of jazz musicians to experiment with structure, rhythm, and harmony. The musicians who pioneered bebop became the architect of modern jazz. Jazz did not stop after bebop. In the 1950s and beyond, jazz musicians explored new styles such as cool jazz, modal jazz, and free jazz. Artists like Miles Davis, John Coltrane, and Ornette Coleman pushed jazz into new directions, creating sounds that were more relaxed, experimental, and even avant-garde. Miles Davis, for example, revolutionized jazz again in the late 1950s with his album Kinda Blue, which introduced modal jazz, an approach that focused on scales rather than traditional chord progressions. This allowed for even more freedom and expression in jazz, as musicians were no longer bound by the limitations of conventional harmony. The evolution of jazz has profound effects not just on music but on culture. As jazz spreads throughout the world, it becomes a symbol of freedom, creativity, and individualism. Jazz gave a voice to social movements, including the civil rights movement, as musicians like Mack Roach and Charles Mingus used their music to express the struggles of African Americans in the 1960s. Jazz was more than music. It became a form of protest, resistance, and cultural identity. The history of jazz is not just a history of genre, it is the history of freedom, creativity, and expression. Jazz continues to inspire and challenge musicians and listeners, and it remains a vital part of our cultural fabric. Whether you're listening to the classics or exploring contemporary jazz, the legacy of this genre is one that will continue to inspire and shape our culture for generations to come.